Welcome back to the Bernat Blanket Stitch Along. We are on Clue 2. How did you do on Clue 1? These are what we worked on last week. There's one strip here in one color scheme and one strip in another color scheme. So you should have 2 of whatever color scheme you did. So we got this, ooh, 8 block, woo, look at that go. So 8 blocks here on this color strip. You need 2 of those. And if you didn't catch Clue 1, be sure and go back to week 1 and check that out for reference. Okay, so we're going to start working on the next clue. Are you ready? Let's get started. All right, we are ready to work on Clue 2 for the Mystery Stitch Along, and we only make 1 strip this week. The instructions say 1 strip, and we're going to move over to the abbreviation side. You can get a sneak peek of the blocks that are coming. Let's look at what's added to our vocabulary list here. So we've got some of the same things. We're going to be knitting. We're still going to be purling, but we've got something new here. Knit 1 below. That's knit into the next stitch 1 row below at the same time, slipping off the stitch above. We'll go through that very carefully here. We're still purling. We're also going to be placing a marker. So PM is place marker, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Everything else is the same, and we're going to get started here, and we'll talk about the first part. We're going to cast on just as we did last week with a pair of needles and casting on 13 stitches. We'll be working with contrast A. I'm going to be using the dark gray color. So for the first row, you notice the double asterisks here, and that means that we're going to be repeating from there to somewhere else later on the pattern. So just want to point that out for you. The first row is with right side. We're going to knit with a row. And then the second row on the wrong side, we're going to knit as well. Okay, so that's going to cause that purl to be on the front. The third row, we'll knit 1, and then we've got 1 asterisk, and we're going to K1 below. That means knit 1 below, and then we'll purl 1. And then we'll repeat between those 2 asterisk points there until the last 2 stitches, and then knit 1 below, purl 1 below. So we'll repeat between the second and the third rows until it measures 6 inches. Okay, and then we're going to end on a right side row, and then we will purl on the next row and place a marker. So this is all being worked with A, and then we will switch to the next segment. So we're going to be making a block just like this. Let's get started on casting on and working these rows. Okay, just as last week, we have got our tail, and we'll be casting on 13 stitches. So we're just going to grab that, split it. We're going to lift up with that loop where the thumb is, down where the finger is, and down where that thumb is, and then pull that. Make sure it's not too tight. We're definitely going to need it loose this week. Scoop up from the thumb, down where the finger is, down where the thumb is, and pull that. And keep going until you have 13. And last week's video will remind you how to do these basic stitches. This is the long tail cast on. And of course we have some slower videos available as well. Okay, we've got 5, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. We got 13 stitches. Okay, we're going to knit our first row, and this will be the right side row. And you can also put a removable stitch marker on the front of one of these stitches to tell which is the right side or the wrong side row for your purposes. So go ahead and knit to the end, and then knit 1 more row on the wrong side. I'll meet you back up on the right side for the third row. Pause your video and I'll meet you back in a moment. Okay, we're back for the third row. We'll knit the first stitch, and then we're going to do something called K1 below. So we knit 1 below. So we're looking at this stitch here, and then you see this purl bump here. We're going to go right underneath this where a purl bump is and kind of pull down your stitch, and you'll be able to see right underneath that stitch there, and put your needle in all the way through. okay, and you'll see it come out right up the other side. We're going to yarn over and pull through a knit stitch, and you'll see that stitch made here, and these 2 stitches are here. They're just going to drop off. So we'll pull those out, they're going to drop off, and then the next stitch is purl one. So this one here, we're going to put our yarn to the front, and we're going to put our needle there and purl it. Push that back, and you've got a loop. Okay, put our yarn to the back again, and now we're going to repeat knit 1 below. Okay, so we pull this down, we see this stitch here, and we put it in, knit it. Okay, let that fall off, bring the yarn to the front, purl the next stitch. I want to show you again, but I want to show you where you could perhaps mess up. So let's put the yarn to the back again. Okay, so if I put it underneath this stitch here, and I think that's putting that 1 below, you will start dropping stitches and your work will kind of fall apart. So you want to make sure that you're pulling this down like this. If you really kind of separate it out, you can see that there's a stitch right underneath here. Okay, and you just put your needle in. You'll kind of find like no resistance there, and just put it straight in, pull through, get your loop, and let these fall off. Okay, now there is a little trick. If you have to go back and you want to fix something and you're just not really sure, I want to show you right now how to frog it or go backwards, knit backwards. Okay, so if I go backwards, let's say I have a purl strip. Let's just show you purl real quick. I'm going to purl this stitch, and then I'll show you how to go backwards. Okay, so let's say I purled that stitch and I have to go and fix something back here. I want to take my needle and go into this stitch here, okay, and let the one I just made drop off, okay, and let this yarn pop out, right? So let's say I want to fix this one, and I know that I had 2 pieces of yarn back here, these 2, okay. I'm going to put my needle in, scoop that in that large hole there, and then let this one fall off. Okay, now you see that I have 2 pieces of yarn here. I have one that's kind of short, you'll feel it on yours, and then one that's kind of long. If I put the one that's long in the back here, I can take my needle here. Okay, I'm going to take my dominant hand needle and insert it in. Okay, go between these 2 stitches, and then I'm going to push down on this second stitch and make it go through that loop there. Okay, when I do that, my stitch is going to come off onto this dominant hand, this stitch here, and I want to pick it back up and get it placed in the right spot on my other needle. I can either put my other needle into that stitch, or I can pick it up with my finger, and now it's situated correctly on my needle, and I can make that stitch again. So if you accidentally got 2 big thick pieces of yarn here and you're just not sure how that happened, you can kind of go backwards and fix that. So the way this pattern goes is we've knit the first stitch, and then it starts repeating knit 1 below and then purl, knit 1 below, purl, and so we'll do the knit 1 below again right here, and then purl, and then put our yarn to the back again, knit 1 below, and purl, and you just continue that all the way until the end, and then the last 2 stitches will be the knit 1 below, and then you will knit that last stitch. So I'm going to get to that part right there. Okay, so we're on the last 2 stitches, put the yarn to the back, knit 1 below, and instead of purling, we will knit that last stitch. Not below, just as usual, as normal. Okay, and then that is row 3. Turn that over, and we're going to make another row 2 here. And this is simply knitting. So we will just knit all the way across. What that does is it creates a purl stitch on the right side to where you can knit below very easily. You'll see those purl stitches. Okay, so you're just going to finish going back and forth between the second and third rows until you get 6 inches, and you're going to end on a right side row. This is what this pattern is looking like as we work it up. So as you can see, it gets easier to find that knit 1 below stitch as you go along and you see the pattern. See that stitch right there? And so you can see this column going right up, and just go right underneath that stitch and knit that and let it fall off. All right, we'll meet you back up at 6 inches. Okay, so I've got to 6 inches here. We're going to measure that out, and we've ended on a right side row. So we got 6 inches. We've ended on this right side row here. I've got my stitch marker to show me here where I'm at. We're going to go flip to the wrong side, and we're going to purl. Okay, so we're going to purl this last row, and when we get to the end, we'll place a stitch marker, and we'll be ready to move on with our next color. I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, we're going to place the marker at the end of this stitch here, and then go ahead and break your yarn and turn it over and start working with your next color. This is going to be Contrast B. Okay, so I'm just going to hold these at the back. We did this last week where we worked the two colors together on the back, and then I just leave the tails. Then we'll get woven in later on. So we're going to work with color B and knit across for the next row. And join me back up when you've completed that. Okay, so we have added in the color for the B, and we knitted the row, and now we're going to work on the next row, which is knit 1, purl 1, and repeat to the last stitch and knit 1. Does that sound familiar? It should. We did it last week with the seed stitch. So that's all you're going to be doing. You're going to be working that until you measure 6 inches, ending on a wrong side row. So once we do that, we're going to repeat that 3 more times, and we will have 8 blocks just as we did last week, but we're alternating between this stitch with the knit 1 below over here and then the seed stitch in the opposite color. So the strip will have 8 blocks, and it'll be approximately 48 inches. I'll show you in a moment what mine looks like, and we'll bind that off or cast that off in pattern together. This one says cast off in pattern and not cast off knitwise. So let's do that at the same time. I have worked all my blocks here, and you can see that I'm ready to cast this off in pattern. Okay, so we're going to knit this first stitch just as we would for the seed stitch. Then the next stitch would be a purl, so we're going to purl that stitch. Okay, and then just as we did last week, we're going to take the back loop over the front on this dominant hand here and bind that off or cast that off. The next stitch would be a knit stitch, so we'll move our yarn to the back and knit that, and then lift the back over the front and continue in pattern. So now we're going to purl again. Same thing, continue lifting that back loop over, and you can move your yarn to the back as you need. Oops, there we go. And go ahead and purl that, knit that, and keep going. And I'll see you at the end when you have completed that. Okay, I'll knit that last stitch, lift that back loop over, pull that, and break your yarn, pull it through. Once you've got your one strip finished, you are ready to weave in your pesky tails to be done with it. All right, did you fast forward to the end? I think some of you did. Here is the finished clue number 2. Yay! So you just have one strip this week with the 8 blocks, and this is that first color scheme. And here is the color scheme that I did. Yay! So I can't wait to see what you've worked on this week. Be sure and head over to that Facebook page and get the hashtag Handmade with Joanne and hashtag GoodKnitKisses for me. That way I can see it. I can't wait to see what you've made. Join me next week for clue number 3. Oh my goodness, you're gonna love it, love it, love it. Can I give you a hint? Can I give you a hint? I'm not sure if I can. No pearls are in the ocean today. Or next week, I mean. All right, I'll see you next week. You guys have a great day and happy knitting. Bye.